guys, this is CW. In this video, we have the team joining from NightOwl. Just like to note, we respect their privacy, so hence the profile pictures, as you can see. So that being said, I'd like to welcome Jay the Ergo, Crass, and Supreme. Welcome, guys.
Thanks, CW. Thanks for having us here again.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everyone out there.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to host you guys. Obviously, we've done a video previously, and then this one we're going to sort of dive a little bit more into the technicalities about how your platform operates. So just on that, in this video, we're going to discuss your project and a couple of important features such as wallet integration. You guys have created a dApp connector package for the community, random number generalization, and your thoughts on building on Ergo and even third-party dApp integration. So for the viewers who may not know what NightOwl is, can you just give us a rundown on what you're actually developing here?
Sure. Yeah, so NightOwl is pretty much the world's most decentralized casino. And what our goal is to be pretty much the transparent and fully verifiable casino where anyone can go inside and check the odds. And in addition, anyone can become the house of the casino. So as an individual, you can come in, place a bet and either win or lose, or you can park your funds in there and act as the house. So if someone does lose, the funds are split between all the invested parties. So that's the idea behind Ergo, and I mean the NightOwl casino, and we're building on top of Ergo because of this as well, following the Ergo manifesto and all the transparency and things around that. So we're really looking forward to launching and really revolutionizing the casino industry.
Yeah, thanks very much for that introduction. You did touch on transparency there. I've jumped into your GitHub myself personally, so you're definitely open source. I think that instills a lot of confidence into the community that they can jump in to make sure that they'll try and make sure that data is not being manipulated. So how does NightOwl sort of provide that guarantee around data manipulation in a decentralized casino? I think that's pretty important.
Of course, yes. That's probably one of the main factors behind our casino, and it's one of the factors that led us to build something like this. People have this understanding of the casino industry to be very shady and very against the grain, in the sense that it's not known to be trusted. So we wanted to kind of help break this mold and build the casino, breaking this barrier and building it to be very transparent. And the way that we're going to do this is through various factors. One is, like you mentioned, is being open source. So anyone can go inside of our GitHub and check all of our code and see exactly what we're building. And we're trying to be very, very thorough with our documentation as well, so that people that aren't too technologically savvy can go in and still read through the documentation and understand what's going on. So that's the main piece that really separates us from the rest. And then the other pieces are around the transparency with the house edge. So a lot of these games, when you go to the casino, you have no idea what the house edge is for any casino game that you're playing, whether it be slots or roulette, etc., European or American, all have different odds. And we want to ensure that people, when they play, that they know that there is an advantage to the house, so that in the long term, the house always wins. And this is good for two reasons. One, it benefits players by letting them know exactly what their chances of winning are in the long term. And then two, it benefits the investors, because long term, they're always going to make a return on their funds. So this allows the perfect balance between the bettors and the investors. And the beauty about it is that it could be both. You can be either an investor or a player. You could park your funds, get some return, and then use those returns to play your favorite games.
I think that's a really interesting concept. Obviously, having the ability to be the house, that's massive. I think that's game changing across the board. Um, so just jumping into sort of the technical side of things, I see you guys actually have created a React dApp connector package for the community as well. So not only are you just creating infrastructure for yourself, but being open source, you're providing it for the community as well. I think that's pretty cool.
Yes, yes. So that's one of the things that we actually made in the last Ergo hack. Two of our team members, Danny and Rix, dove in and created this dApp connector for the community to use, and we even use it ourselves. And it's also the first implementation of including Nautilus and SafeU all in one. So it has full compatibility with both of those, and then hopefully in the future we'll add other wallets as well. This is very important for the community because it allows new devs to not waste time building this connection, and instead they're able to just make one line of code and have it ready on their site without all the extra work needed. And it shows, the balance. You're able to sign transactions and clear wallet to change for a new one. So all the bells and whistles that you'd want are immediately available to these devs to include into their own site. And tied with this is also other open source stuff that we have in our disposal, which you could easily see in our GitHub around the RNG. So if anyone also would want to use some sort of RNG method, we have two different ones that are available for anyone in the community to use. So this is pretty much the whole beauty of open source, is to really have this this community-driven effort where people are sharing this code and are able to really build together. Even if you're not in the same team, you're able to use someone else's new development and use it for the benefit of the community versus just trying to keep it closed source and all for yourself.
Yeah, most definitely. Huge advocate for open source code because obviously you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can just plug and play the React package here is a prime example of that. But then also into code itself, you're not having to rewrite lines of code. But then also
exactly.
you might actually have an idea, but you might not know how to actually implement that. And someone might have done something similar. So you can sort of basically, you might not actually copy the code one to one, but you can use aspects within the code itself.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and we even use because there were people that did some dApp connections previous to us, and we even use various sources to try to get this model built for the community. So shout out to all those great teams on Ergo that are doing the open source model as well to benefit us all.
Yeah, very well said. So I believe, Supreme, you've got an example of, say, this dApp connector in use. Do you want to share your screen and run us through how that actually works?
Yep, sure. So this is kind of still crude or still early stages of our Roulette page, but at the top here you can see the Connect Wallet button. And when you press it, there's the options for Nautilus and SafeU. So when you select Nautilus, you can pick whatever wallet you have available. I'm picking NightOwl Test. And once that happens, it gets the balance of the OWL tokens, as well as display the the important or the shortened version of the address. And then when you bring down or click it again, it shows some of the other tokens that you would have. It's not particularly important because the only tokens that are that we use for our platform are the Ergos for the transaction fees and then OWL for betting. So but if, say, you're not using Nautilus or you want to change a wallet, there's a clear wallet button, which I know for a while didn't exist, but I think we worked directly with I think Nautilus and SafeU to get that functionality added. And so now if we go to SafeU, we have the ability to connect different types of wallets. So, but I guess something happened, so it's not fully working yet. But yeah.
Yeah, no dramas. Thanks very much for that rundown. And Jay, you did touch on just in your little introduction there when we were talking on random number generation. I believe you guys actually have a couple of different options available. Do you want to sort of provide a rundown on your random number generator, but then also you've got a VDF or a verifiable delay function. I think that's pretty important for the ecosystem as well. But then obviously being a decentralized casino, it's paramount to have that random number generation.
Yes, of course. Yeah, we actually developed two different RNG methods, and I'll let Krasovic talk a little bit about these since he's the mastermind behind them. So Krasa, if you want to go a little bit into detail on those.
Yeah, sure. I mean, firstly, mastermind is probably not the correct word. I have been reading a lot of papers to sort of put all of this together. That said, though, so we've talked about how we're using two different RNG methods in NightOwl. These two are verifiable delay functions, as well as using an oracle source for random numbers. So you may be wondering, why are there two different sources? And that's simply because the oracle source is quicker, so we can use it for fast-paced games, whereas the verifiable delay function can take quite a long time to verify. So it's more appropriate for games like lottery or anything with a lower frequency. So I suppose we'll jump into VDFs first. So verifiable delay functions on Ergo basically take advantage of Ergo's proof of work protocol to give the most secure and unmalleable random numbers you can have.
Yep.
So how does it work? Basically, these functions, these VDFs, take a really long time to compute. And unlike mining, the output of these functions cannot be meaningfully sped up to increase computation. So you think with miners, you can put together a lot of computers and have a lot more hash power. This is different on VDFs. VDFs, it doesn't matter how much computation you have. If it's constructed correctly, your function, it will always take, within some variance, about the same amount of time.
Yeah.
So this is wonderful because it means we can use an Ergo proof of work hash, pass it through the VDF, and the output is guaranteed to take some amount of time to compute. So let's just say that this time is 10 minutes. We can then use a VDF to make a highly secure random number. Because the only way to cheat this system would be for a miner to place a bet on our casino, for example, mine a block, which they may not even control that much hash power, so that's already getting difficult, run the VDF, and then either decide to publish the block or not. But the problem with this cheat is it's rendered redundant by the fact that the VDF takes 10 minutes to compute, because the block that they mined is now stale after this time. And you can always increase the delay of the function. So if you think 10 minutes may not be long enough with mining variance, and maybe if someone has a lot of hash power, you can always increase it longer and longer. That comes at the disadvantage of the random numbers taking longer to generate, but it does improve the security and the unmalleability of those numbers. So
I
yeah,
think that's a really important point, not being able to sort of manipulate or provide that malleability guarantee. I think that's really important.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the use cases of such technology spread far. It doesn't just have to be for the casino. You could do this for any important random number that you need, whether that to be to decide some tie break or any other use case which is valuable enough to run the operation. Fortunately, though, even running it on Ergo isn't even that costly compared to some other papers done to implement this on Ethereum, for example. I believe it's at least 100-fold cheaper. So yeah, I mean, it's not even that costly to run on Ergo, and it provides these highly secure random numbers. So that's why we are quite proud of that piece of work. So then the second piece of RNG probably doesn't need as much explanation. It's simply using an Oracle pool that anyone in the community will be able to join. So basically, it's taking advantage of Ergo's Oracle pools, and this system essentially is just broadcasting Ethereum block hashes to Ergo, so our contracts can use them. We do this because Ethereum block hashes are faster than Ergo's hashes, so we can have that fast feed of random numbers, and they have a high enough value to be adequately secure. So, for example, if a miner wanted to manipulate the hash, they would have to drop an ETH block, which may be worth a fair bit of funds to them. So as long as we have good economic disincentive through various payout limits on using those services, then this is fine. That said, this is a sort of area we are still exploring, so we are open to other sources. We understand that Ethereum will eventually go to proof of stake, supposedly. So that may mean this source is no longer available, but any sort of source that an Oracle can publish on Ergo that has adequate security is sort of what we're after for this functionality there. So I think they've covered the RNG.
Yep.
And again, all of this would be open source, transparent. Like, I kind of want to reiterate as well, NightOwl as a platform is neutral to the player and the house. So we don't have any affiliation for either, which is why we want to create technology that is correct and has no risks of attacks, hence the open source, so other people can look at it, and hence the most scrutiny of our RNG generation as possible.
Yeah, something like this being a decentralized casino where there is quite the incentive to take advantage of these sort of functions and bits and pieces. I think it's really important to have even multiple random number generations and iterations of that even across the board, because obviously if there's money at play, someone will try and break it or manipulate and things like that. So having that open transparency, I think it's really important.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, goes without saying.
We actually even have on this same topic, I don't know if right now would be the right time, but we could show the Oracle, the ETH Oracle RNG method in action with the Roulette, if you would want to see that now.
Yeah, by all means. That's what I was exactly about to segue to.
Okay,
so
cool.
Supreme, if you'd like to share your screen, mate, by all means, run us through an example of how this sort of operates.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks, mate.
Okay, so as you've seen earlier, this is our first iteration of the Roulette page. And before I place the bet, I need to start the Oracle. So all the Oracle does is basically check the latest ETH block number, and then just get the hash from that block. And as Crassifus was saying, it's much faster than Ergo, and they happen every 5 to 10 seconds. As you can see, there was just 6 blocks that we just got. That's what this hash number is.
Yep.
And while it's doing that, every time it gets a hash, it will check the unconfirmed transactions from the Ergo node. And so, and we're specifically looking for NightOwl bets that of this unconfirmed transaction. And so we have on top of the Oracle scanner, we have an RNG server, which basically listens for front-end request. So when a user places a bet, it will, they'll sign the transaction, it will get written to the blockchain, and then the UI will say, hey, it'll connect to a WebSocket, and it'll say, hey, I'm requesting a bet. Here's my block ID, Ergo block ID. And then we basically wait until 2 more, or the Oracle scanner will pick up this block ID and wait for 2 more ETH hashes before it will say, I got your random number, and send it back to the UI to display on the front, on the wheel. So let me go ahead and get this going.
Sure.
So we have a nice pretty UI which displays if you place a chip, it'll tell you the numbers that you're placing the bet on. So we're going to place a bet on even, press spin. So the transaction. And we submitted successfully. We can see that we got the block, the box ID added or picked up from the Oracle scanner. And we're just waiting for 2 new hashes.
Yep.
Which we got. The random number was 35. So.
And there we go, 35 black.
And I can explain how it picked up that number. So when after the Oracle scanner gets enough bets, or before it writes 2 arrays, one to register 4, one to register 5, and I can show you what that looks like. Register 4 holds the ETH hashes, and it does them sequentially. Yep. And R5 holds the an array of the Ergo block IDs, which are the bets. And when it picks up block ID, it waits for 2 ETH hashes to happen, and then it picks the this is the random number, or the block hash for this bet. And we have what we do is we take the first 32 bytes, but we're still experimenting with this. Well, because we can have a slew of or we can do bitwise shifting to use multiple random numbers for many different games or for the same game.
Yep.
We're thinking of having multiple lobbies for roulette, where so a user can join every lobby and place bets with their same wallet, and kind of like
play
just have a continuous flow
at once.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, they could place a bet while that's spinning. They could place another bet, and then keep going. Right. So yeah, I think.
So just on that as well, you've got the registers there. Do you want to explain actually what a register is and how that is constructed within the UTXO or a box for that instance?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, the registers are this extension of the UTXO model. So typically, you just have value. You have most of what you see at the top of the output there. So box ID, transaction ID is not really relevant to the box itself, but you have value. You have here we have an Ergo tree, which is equivalent, I suppose, to Bitcoin guard scripts. So yeah, that's all of that is standard. But then, as Supreme said, we can have registers where you can store all sorts of data. And in this case here, this data is the Oracle report. And currently, our node is the only Oracle reporting to this. So basically, its word is final. That said, we are working on creating a consensus mechanism where we can have many parties input their own data that they've scanned, and then have some sort of reward system to kind of evaluate what's good data. And then all of that gets eventually published into this one output box here, which the contracts can reference to make payments.
Yeah, thanks very much for providing that information. Really good example there of how your random number generation works, and even the operation of the roulette interface as well. It's nice and pretty and looks pretty streamlined. I think that your customer or the customers of NightOwl will be pretty happy to play that.
Thank you.
So
yeah, our front end devs are great.
Yeah, they're awesome.
So just on third-party development, you guys are having the ability to have third-party developers being able to plug in games into this framework. Can you give us a bit of a rundown on sort of how that is built out in the infrastructure required to do so?
Sure. Yeah. So just to give a quick overview of what that means is NightOwl itself is a platform. So the goal for NightOwl in the future is and now actually is to allow third-party devs to come on and integrate their games onto this platform. And this allows them to do a couple cool things. One is if their game is able to use the house funds, they're able to use our house funds, and then any bets could be funded by that. And just like NightOwl, the devs that are building these games are able to get fees for their games. So if someone plays the game that they created, they're going to get a cut of the fees that are added on to the game. So it really provides the incentive for the developers to come and build on NightOwl. And we currently don't have a very strict framework right now. But one thing that we are ensuring is that the security and safety for the users is always there. So definitely, initially, we're doing our best to audit and assist these games as much as we can to, one, ensure that the smart contracts are working as intended, and that the transparency is there, and that the odds aren't too out of whack in the favor of the house.
Yeah.
So all of these things are very important to maintain the integrity of the platform. And the goal in the future is to actually decentralize this process as well, to remove some of that that oversight from NightOwl and put it onto the actual community through governance. And Krasovic is actually making some very, very cool contracts on this through some voting mechanisms. So in the future, the owl holders will be able to actually vote on what game they want to be added or not onto the platform. So yeah, so we actually have one team currently that is actively working on integrating their game on NightOwl, and hopefully they'll be available as well for launch. And this game is called Spooky Hunt. It's by a team of the Spooky Ergo team. So you guys might have seen a couple of their NFTs before. Yep. And they've created this Pac-Man-like game, which you guys could see also in their own Twitter and Discord, which is very cool. And they're working really hard to try to integrate into the NightOwl platform. And they have a really cool model that they've developed as well, where the top three scorers for the week will be able to get win a pot. So it would be pay to play. So the players would be able to pay a very small amount, and if they place in the top three, they'll be able to get the pot. So these are some of the cool new initiatives that are being done around NightOwl that I think is super interesting, just because it shows the versatility of what's possible and what can be done. And in addition to that, there's other things that can be implemented, which are being done in the example of Spooky Hunt. Some of the winners are actually going to get at the Spooky Ergo's NFTs as well. So it also brings a cool new way to incorporate NFTs into the model, so that even if you don't win or you win, you're able to also win not only OWL but an NFT. So I'm really excited about the future, and really the third-party development is the future of NightOwl, because what we envision is in the future for to have a lot of devs come on board and build their own game, no matter how creative it is, and allowing anyone to come on board and play it.
Yeah, thanks very much for that rundown, mate. You did touch on a voting mechanism. Kras, do you want to just give us a brief outline or explanation on what that actually is?
Sure. So currently, I've actually worked on a voting mechanism for our team. So this is something where we can distribute tokens to members of our team, and we can vote on certain contracts to reallocate the location of funds or change details in a contract if that's needed. So yeah, that can basically be extended to the community. The tricky part is finding good scaling to do that. But yeah, it certainly can be done. That said though, yeah, so I mentioned kind of something that may sound a bit dubious to the audience, where we're like, our team has rights to vote on certain contracts. Those contracts that we do have rights to like change where the funds are located and all of that, we can do through this voting. But those contracts are not going to be like the house funds or anything that's, you know, owned by the community. They're just going to be contracts that we use personally. But I found that's a nice start to, you know, have a look at how this governance works. You know, I'm sure there will be changes to the current version. But yeah, currently it's simply tokens are awarded to members of our team in different amounts, and a majority voting can change where funds are located or change details of a contract address.
Yeah, I think it's
And just to expand on that a little bit, the tokens that he's mentioning are not team allocation tokens that come prior to the launch. We are we did no IDO, no team allocation or none of that. So it's as fair as I can get. The tokens that he's mentioning come from the fees that will end up funding the NightOwl dev team. Yeah, so it's definitely as fair as we can get, and we're currently operating at a loss right now. So hopefully we get enough transactions to fund the dev team in the future.
Yeah, I think it's very good to make that clear distinction as well, that you can't manipulate, like say, treasury funds and bits and pieces like that, or the contracts behind. So
exactly. Yep.
All right, gentlemen, I think that's a very clear rundown of your platform, but then the technology that you're using behind the scenes as well. Is there any last words you want to elaborate on, or provide any more information to the community?
Nothing in particular. I guess I would love to get everyone's feedback on anything that we release. So just follow us on our social medias at NightOwl Casino, and stay up to date on our latest blogs also through our Medium account. And yeah, we have a lot of great things to share to you guys soon. We're going into the testing of Roulette, and everything should be all set to launch in September. So very excited for that date, and just keep a watch for the NightOwl team and all the third-party devs building on NightOwl as well. Yeah,
very well said. And if you want to jump onto the GitHub, obviously everything's open source as well. So if you want to provide some feedback or jump into the code and review anything for yourself, by all means do so. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining in this video. It's been a pleasure hosting you once again. And thank you very much to the audience for watching. Take care, guys.
Thanks, CW. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.